You know that feeling, right? It just kind of hits you.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
No.
you're scrolling online, you see someone, I don't know, amazing vacation pics, or they post some big career news.
Mm.
And that little thought just creeps in, like, am I doing enough? Am I really where I should be?
It's so common.
Mhm.
Whether you're prepping for something big like a presentation or just trying to absorb all the information flying around, that sense of not quite measuring up,
Yeah.
it's familiar territory for a lot of us.
Yeah, it really is. And it's almost like we carry this invisible checklist around.
Exactly. Of what we should have achieved or where we should be, and we're always sort of checking ourselves against it.
Right. And well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. We spent some time with a really insightful conversation from Podcast and Chill.
Mm.
And our mission here is to really pull apart this whole not good enough feeling.
Yeah.
We want to find some genuinely practical, actionable things you can use.
Things to help build up that sense of your own value, right?
Precisely. Think of this as maybe a guide to understand where the feeling comes from, but more importantly, what you can actually do about it.
And what's interesting from the material is just how many different things feed into it.
It's not just one thing.
No, not at all. It really shows how complex our sort of inner world is when it comes to how we see ourselves.
Okay, so let's get right into it then. Why? Why does this feeling even take root? That Podcast and Chill conversation, it immediately pointed to something huge.
Comparison.
Comparison.
And, well, you can't really talk about comparison today without talking about social media, can you?
No way. It's like a constant highlight reel.
It is. It's this curated version of life.
Yeah.
And like they said, you see that dream vacation or the amazing career news, and bang, instant comparison.
Yeah, you compare it to your own, maybe less curated reality.
It's a human thing to do.
Yeah.
But these platforms just amplify it like crazy.
Oh, totally. You could be having a perfectly fine day, and then suddenly you're questioning everything just because your life doesn't look like that one filtered photo.
Mhm. And it's not just the photos, is it? There's also this wider sort of societal hum.
Yeah, this pressure.
This pressure, exactly. This feeling that we should always be doing more, achieving more, hitting these, frankly, often unrealistic standards.
Always needing to follow high standards, as they put it.
Which, if you think about it psychologically, constantly seeing people who seem better off fuels that upward social comparison.
Right. And that just chips away at your self-esteem, makes you feel inadequate.
But it's crucial to remember what they pointed out, too. It's actually pretty normal to question ourselves sometimes.
Yeah, those moments of doubt, they happen. It's part of being human.
So the real question becomes,
Mm-hmm.
how do we go from just saying, okay, this feeling is normal, to actually believing deep down that our worth is, way bigger than these insecurities and comparisons?
That's the key, isn't it? Getting to that core belief.
That's what we really want to unpack for you.
Okay, so a big first step has to be just noticing when it's happening, right? Like being aware.
Definitely. What are the signs? What does it look like or feel like inside and out?
So internally, what are we looking for?
Well, self-doubt is a big one, that little voice inside.
The one that says you're not smart enough or you'll never manage this.
Exactly that. It can be relentless.
It really can. Drains your energy.
And another thing internally is this constant need for perfection. The expert they mentioned from the British Association for Counseling and Psychotherapy talked about this.
Right. People putting on a brave face.
Yeah, pretending everything's fine, relationships, family, work, even when they're really struggling inside. It's like wearing a mask.
Oh, that resonates. Trying to keep up appearances no matter what.
And linked to that, there's often this need for constant approval from outside.
Like always asking, was that okay? Did I do that right? Even for small things.
Mm-hmm. Needing that external thumbs up just to feel okay about what you did.
Okay, so that's the internal stuff. But these feelings, they don't just stay inside, do they? They leak out into our actions.
Absolutely. A really common one is avoiding challenges. Just shying away from things because you're afraid you might fail.
Yeah, I mentioned that feeling, didn't I? That instinct to kind of make yourself smaller, play it safe.
It feels protective, maybe, but it really limits you in the long run, stops you from growing.
Total double-edged sword.
And then there's people-pleasing, saying yes when you really want to say no.
Just because you're worried about what they'll think if you don't.
Exactly. You end up putting everyone else's potential judgment ahead of your own needs. It's exhausting.
It sounds exhausting. Okay, so we see the roots, we see the signs. How do we start to shift things? The conversation really emphasized intrinsic worth.
Yes, this is so important. The idea that your value as a person isn't tied to what you achieve externally.
Like winning that award or gaining more money, as they put it.
Right. Because how often do people Hit a big goal, feel good for maybe a moment, but then that old feeling creeps back in.
Oh, I can definitely relate to that. I've reached goals I thought would be the thing that made me feel enough. But the feeling, it didn't stick around.
Exactly. Because real self-worth, it comes from inside. It's about recognizing your own qualities, your kindness, your strengths, the things that make you you, separate from any achievements.
They had that great moment where they reflected on what made them proud, personally. One host mentioned their sense of humor.
Yeah, being able to make people laugh. And the other talked about listening, really making people feel heard and understood.
Not things you get trophies for.
No, but fundamental parts of who they are. And that leads to a really good question for you listening right now. What are your qualities? Your unique gifts that have nothing to do with accomplishments?
That's something worth sitting with, for sure. Okay, so if our worth is already there, inside us, what can we actually do to feel it more, to strengthen it?
Well, one really practical thing they talked about was recognizing little achievements.
So not just the big, shiny wins.
No, exactly the opposite. It's about deliberately noticing and valuing the smaller things that make you feel good or proud without comparing them to anyone else.
Like the examples they gave, cleaning your space, helping out a friend.
Or even just getting out of bed when you're having a tough day. Those count.
Yeah. I remember actually feeling pretty good after I finally tackled organizing my closet. It wasn't world-changing, but it felt like my accomplishment.
Precisely. It's about that internal sense of pride, not needing applause from others. Another really powerful strategy is embracing a growth mindset.
The idea that our abilities aren't fixed, right? That we can actually develop them with effort.
Exactly. It's the opposite of a fixed mindset, which says you've either got it or you don't.
With a growth mindset, challenges become different.
Yeah, they become opportunities. Like that analogy they use to challenge is like a fun puzzle to solve.
I like that reframe. And mistakes aren't the end of the world.
No, they're stepping stones, not roadblocks. They're chances to learn.
It puts the focus on effort, too. Like watering a plant, you need to put in the work to see growth.
Mm-hmm. And persistence matters. Slow and steady wins the race kind of thing. It really encourages you to challenge that negative self-talk.
So instead of, I can't do this, it's more like,
Okay, what could I do to get better at this? Or what step can I take right now?
and celebrating the small wins along the way, being patient with yourself.
Absolutely. Like learning to ride a bike, you fall off. You don't just quit, you get back on, maybe a bit wobbly, but you keep trying.
Yeah, you trust the process.
It's also about taking ownership, focusing on what you can control, practicing gratitude for the good stuff, however small.
And actively trying to stop that comparison game.
Yes. And seeing failure not as, final proof you're no good, but as feedback, like a roadmap showing you what to adjust next time.
Reminds me of when I tried baking sourdough bread recently. Total disaster.
Uh-huh. Happens to the best of us.
But instead of just giving up, I actually tried to figure out why it failed. Definitely a learning curve there.
Exactly. That's the growth mindset in action. And seeking feedback, seeing it as helpful information, not a personal attack.
Okay, so these are great individual strategies. But we don't exist in a vacuum, do we? Our environment matters too.
Hugely important. Who you surround yourself with makes a difference.
Having that supportive circle, your cheering squad.
Yeah, people who lift you up, encourage you. And it goes both ways too.
How so?
Well, being supportive of others creates this positive feedback loop, this positivity ripple effect. It benefits everyone.
That makes sense. Even small, consistent steps help build that feeling, right? Like learning a few new words, tracking your progress. Little things add up.
They really do. And this brings us to another really interesting point they raised, rethinking what we label as weakness.
Yes. Specifically, talking about crying and vulnerability.
Right. There's such a strong societal message, especially sometimes for men, that crying equals weakness.
But they really push back on that.
They did. Suggesting it's actually a natural, healthy response when emotions get intense. Like your brain's way of saying, this is too much right now.
And it's not just sadness that brings tears, is it?
No. It can be overwhelming joy, relief, pain, stress, a whole range of strong feelings. The real point was that it takes courage to face your feelings and express them authentically.
And there are actual benefits, apparently.
Yeah, like stress relief, literally flushing it out. It can boost your mood afterwards, like an emotional reset.
And it can actually build connection with others.
Showing vulnerability, being real with you, it builds trust. People feel closer when they see your genuine emotions.
They mention those examples like Jacinda Ardern showing empathy through tears or athletes crying.
Yeah, showing how much they care. It really challenges that old stiff upper lip idea.
Of course, they were careful to add that if crying feels constant or overwhelming, it might signal something deeper like depression or anxiety.
Absolutely. And seeking professional help is important then. But for everyday emotional expression, it's healthy.
And they gave good advice for supporting someone else who's crying too.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Be there, listen, offer comfort if it feels right, and just ask, how can I help? Sometimes just being present is enough.
That simple presence can mean a lot. Okay, so moving from vulnerability, they also talked about overcoming a victim mentality.
Another really crucial piece of the puzzle.
That feeling that bad things just happen to you and you can't do anything about it.
It's something people can slip into, especially after really tough times. It's understandable. But staying there,
It holds you back, right?
it really does. It stops you from growing, becomes your default way of seeing things.
So what are the signs you might be stuck in that?
Things like always blaming other people or circumstances, it's not my fault. Feeling powerless, well, it is what it is, in a resigned way.
Constantly comparing yourself and feeling that you always get the short end of the stick.
Exactly. And they touched on where it might come from past trauma, repeated failures, leading to that sense of learned helplessness.
Like Martin Seligman's work showed.
Right. Or even sometimes society can unintentionally reward victimhood with sympathy, which can reinforce it.
And it can really damage relationships and just stop you from moving forward.
Definitely. So breaking free involves first just noticing those thoughts of powerlessness.
And then actively asking.
Okay, what can I do here? What's one small action I can take? Even tiny steps help rebuild that sense of agency.
Practicing gratitude again, taking responsibility for your choices.
And seeing setbacks not as proof that the world is against you, but as information, learning opportunities.
It's about switching from being passive to being active in your own life story.
That's a great way to put it. And that led beautifully into their final point,
Uh,
shifting from scarcity to abundance.
the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. Big difference.
Huge. Scarcity is that feeling of never enough, not enough time, money, opportunities, whatever it is.
Whereas abundance is.
Believing that good things, resources, opportunities, happiness aren't limited. There's enough to go around.
They shared that story, didn't they? One person feeling they always needed more versus someone else who just naturally seemed to operate from abundance.
Yeah. And abundance doesn't mean being lazy or not striving. It just means you don't believe someone else's success takes away from your potential.
Scarcity sounds stressful, always worrying about losing out, feeling jealous.
Focusing on lack, yeah. But abundance opens you up. You see possibilities, focus on solutions, build better relationships because you're not competing constantly.
Like those bakers supporting each other instead of seeing each other as rivals.
Exactly. So cultivating abundance involves things we've already touched on. Gratitude, definitely. But also things like sharing what you have, whether it's knowledge or resources.
Consciously stopping the comparison habit again.
Letting go of fear-based thinking
Hmm.
and genuinely celebrating other people's wins. Being happy for them.
It sounds like retraining your brain almost.
It really is. Training it to see possibilities instead of just limits.
Wow. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, the big takeaway feels, well, really hopeful, actually. That power to change your mindset, to grow that feeling of self-worth and abundance, it's actually in your hands.
Absolutely. Like they said so well in that podcast in Chill Chat, you yourself are a treasure already. It's about learning to see that.
So maybe just think about one small step you could take today based on all this. Could be practicing gratitude for a minute or catching a negative thought and reframing it.
Or just giving yourself credit for a small win you might normally ignore.
Yeah. And here's something to maybe noodle on after this. What would actually change for you day to day, long term, if you really shifted from that never enough feeling to truly recognizing your own inherent value? How might that change your experiences, your goals?
It's a powerful question to carry with you.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We hope it's given you some valuable things to think about.